My entitled mother-in-law is absolutely furious with me and my family, all because we refused to reschedule our Christmas dinner just to accommodate her and her husband. And now, after not getting her way, she's going online slandering my name and making up false rumors just to try and ruin my reputation. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my former mother-in-law is quite the human, and I use the word human very loosely. When the kids were born, she bragged to my parents that she would get to be the one hanging out with the kids, watching them grow and all of that. And this is because my parents lived in another country at the time. And the day my parents got on a plane to go home, my mother-in-law disappeared as well. She did the same to her own son when he was born, so again, not very surprising. From what I gather, while I was married to her son, she was a major absentee mom that left him with whoever for months at a time. It messed him up so very badly, and unfortunately for me, he hides it well. This woman has never been there either for her son, who is my ex-husband, let alone her grandkids at all. She is such a selfish jerk. I doubt she's ever had a thought about anyone but herself. Her son is an absentee dad as well. And there's no surprise there, really. He learned that trick from his mother. So it's been myself and my long-term partner and his amazing family who has raised these kids together for the past 13 years. The odd Christmas, every so often, we would get a call from my former mother-in-law asking if I'd bring the kids to her. It's not terrible as she lives about 30 minutes away from us, but it is only 30 minutes and she has never made an effort to see them at our home, even though she's been invited every single year. And every time we arrive at her home, she's drinking. Her husband is always drunk and gets mean at the drop of a hat. They then make comments comparing my partner to her son. So it's incredibly uncomfortable to say the least. And it's worse when my partner doesn't come with us. That often left us scrambling to attend 5 Christmas dinners over 2 days. And this means that we had to leave our big family dinner early or arrive super late because she and her husband refused to reschedule for even an hour before or after. The big family dinner has happened for the past 60 on the same day at the same time and has over 90 people attending it. This thing cannot be rescheduled. Meanwhile, her dinner is us showing up at 5 o'clock to a cold and half-eaten meal because they decided to eat early and not tell us. Other than the 4 of us, they are the only other attendants. I mean, her son won't even go, which is how I got roped into this every year. The last few years have been very rough with my grandparents passing on and my own parents becoming incapacitated, so the Christmas dinner crawls was dwindled to a more reasonable 2 dinners. It was going to be dinner with my parents and my partner's family. Well, this morning at 7 a.m., my former mother-in-law called and demanded, no, she didn't ask me, that she and her husband see the kids who are now nearly grown. The kids say no, they don't want to go there this year, and said that she could come here for our dinner instead. I obviously don't like her much, but I do try to hide it well for my kids' sake, and she is my kids' grandmother, and as such, they have every right to include her to a dinner in our home. They also invite their dad every year, though he usually spends the holidays drunk and high, crying to whoever will still listen to him babble about how lonely he is. Yes, he is just as ridiculous as his mother, he just hides it much better. So we told her she's welcome up so long as she and her husband are not drinking. We've been through that enough with my ex, and we have no alcohol at home because of it. She agrees, though you can tell that she's not happy about it. I tell her we will be sitting down at around 5 o'clock p.m. Well, when I said that, she lost her mind, claiming that it's ridiculous that grown adults can't have a drink with supper, and states that's what time she sits down with her husband to eat. She says to me, "You can just change it, right?" I said to her, "No, we have 8 people eating, 4 of which are traveling over an hour to get here, and I'm definitely not going to be messing with their schedules to accommodate 2 people who have never once accommodated us." Now, I said it in a much nicer way, but I'm sure you could tell I was on the verge of laughing at this lady. Well, she got angry. She hung up the phone and now has started posting on social media about how I refuse to allow her up so she can give her grandbabies their gifts. And I just have to say, she and her son are well off and play the extravagant gift game well enough to keep my kids interested, which is just another form of toxic manipulation. But the kids don't see it that way just yet, so we say nothing. But the joke's on her though, because apparently I'm not the only one that notices the awful treatment of myself, my partner, or my kids over the years. My inbox is now being flooded with messages on my side, sending me screenshots of what she's calling me and my partner, telling me that she's toxic and how she steals photos from my social media and pretends like she sees my grandkids more than once a year, even though she can't tell anyone what grade they're in. Every message warns me to keep my kids away from her and her son because they are terrible people. My former mother-in-law is on my social media, but I must have blocked her because when I look, there's nothing there. I mean, not even her name shows up in searches anymore, and I'm honestly really happy about that. This was the best Christmas present I could have expected this year after 2 very hard years. So thank you, Santa, for allowing the trash to finally take itself out this holiday season. It's been a very long and frustrating 14 years, and I appreciate it more than you'll ever know. Yeah, that lady sounds like a nightmare to deal with. She seems like the kind of person where if she doesn't get her way, then everybody else is gonna have to suffer because of it. And then add on the fact that she's like not at all accommodating in the slightest and expects you to do everything she wants you to do, all because she's either too lazy or just neglectful. That's just super weird and just really toxic. So I can see why it would be like a really good Christmas present that you don't really have to deal with her anymore. Because I know if I was in your shoes, I would be miserable having to deal with her every single year. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for kicking my sister out for Thanksgiving dinner when she announced my pregnancy without my permission? Here's what happened. So with my family, we have a tradition. When my siblings and I grow old enough and get our own houses, we decide who will do Thanksgiving dinner at our house. I have 2 other younger siblings. The middle child is John and the youngest is Sarah. John and Sarah are not their real names. Well, this year I was chosen and very excited because I was pregnant. Now, only Sarah knew because I told her, and I warned her not to tell other family members, and she promised not to tell. This will be important later on. Well, fast forward to Thanksgiving Day and my house is decorated head to toe. My husband and I spent a lot of time on it. Family members started coming, and my plan was for me to announce my pregnancy when we were all eating dinner. Now, none of my siblings were married yet since I was the oldest, and when Sarah came through the door, I whispered into her ear, and Sarah swore that she told nobody. And I was just really thankful that Sarah did not spread the word and let anybody know about the good news. Our family talked for a while about the internet, and then we sat down to eat. We prayed and said our usual grace before we ate, and I thought about announcing my pregnancy in the middle of us eating. Well, that's when Sarah suddenly stood up and all eyes were on her. She said, "Everybody, she is pregnant," and then she pointed at me. Everyone in the room looked at me and started cheering, but before they could celebrate, I had to step in. I shouted at Sarah that I wanted to tell our family myself. Sarah ruined a special moment for me. It was a one-time chance. Sarah said it was an accident and she said she was sorry, but I didn't listen to her and I ended up kicking her out. My mom was honestly making it harder for me. She said to me, "Seriously, it isn't a big deal. You can do this again." My dad was also trying to stop me from kicking Sarah out. He said to me, "This is a family dinner and Sarah is sorry." After Sarah was out the door, everyone stayed quiet. Now afterwards, Sarah is still trying to reach out to me, and she is really regretful for what she did, but I haven't responded yet. So am I the jerk for kicking my sister out of Thanksgiving dinner after she ruined my pregnancy announcement? What should I do? Wow, your sister is super toxic. I can't believe she did that to you. Like, you told her this secret in confidence. You really expected her to keep her mouth shut. But then Sarah just swoops in and literally ruins the moment right then and there before you could even have your moment about your pregnancy. And personally, I think that's just completely unacceptable. And I think if I was in your shoes, I would probably kick her out as well. So I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think what Sarah did was completely out of line. And any of your family members who are trying to defend Sarah for what she said and be like, "Oh, it was just an accident," those people, in my opinion, are also completely wrong. Am I the jerk for telling my father-in-law not to make comments on my medical care? Here's what happened. So for a bit of context, my husband and I are currently living in my in-laws' basement. We have been living here since February, and we moved in with them because my husband got a new job closer to them, but there were no rentals available. So his parents decided to let us temporarily move in with them. Now, shortly after we moved in, I started having some medical issues. My husband ended up having to quit his job to take care of our toddler because I was no longer able to. My in-laws were okay with us staying indefinitely and have watched our child while I'm at appointments. I am a very private person. However, out of respect for my in-laws, I always let them know how a doctor appointment went and what the current next steps are. Now, I admit admit, I haven't exactly stayed on top of some of my medical care this year. By that, I mean I haven't always followed up on calls as fast as I should, and I've been in nonstop pain most of this year and spent a couple months in autistic burnout. So my brain hasn't exactly always been the clearest. My husband has ADHD and became not only our child's full-time caregiver, but mine as well. So his brain hasn't exactly been the clearest either. Occasionally, my father-in-law would text or email me things he thought I should be doing. He would almost always word it as if, here's an idea for you, and then proceed to list his opinions. The first few times I said thank you, I will consider it, and then I just ignored it. The reason being is that most of his opinions go directly against my capabilities or don't line up with the plan my husband and I already made. Eventually, I asked him very nicely to let me make my own decisions about my medical care. For a while, he stopped and then he slowly started up again. I really tried to ignore it, but then today he texts me telling me once again the steps he believed I should take next. So I responded by saying this: I understand that you're trying to help me, but please stop. I have not asked you to do this and I don't want you to do this. I share my health journey with both you and your wife out of respect. It is literally December 21st, and right now I don't care to chase after doctors with it being so close to Christmas. I am an adult, and what I choose to do or not do with my medical care is up to me. So please refrain from making any comments unless you are specifically asked. Later on today, my father-in-law approached my husband to let him know that he was mad and he needed to vent to him. My husband told me that it very much felt like his dad wanted to give me a piece of his mind. He said this because his dad has told him earlier this year that there have been times he has wanted to say things to me, but didn't because he didn't want to lose his relationship with our family. I was quite surprised to hear this because I didn't think what I said was rude or mean. I felt like it just stated my boundaries. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Yes, I really do think you're the jerk in this scenario. Here's the thing, you're not doing anything with your life. You're not doing anything to improve your health, and neither you or your husband have a job. And I totally get it. Your in-laws are letting you live in their basement. And I'm willing to assume that the both of them were wondering, well, what are their plans? You say you have plans with you and your husband, and that you're an adult and you can make choices on your medical care, but the only choice you've made is to not do anything. Like, based on what you said in this post, it basically sounds like your choice is, well, we're just not going to do anything. And instead, I'm just going to list a bunch of excuses as to why we're not working, and then ask the father-in-law to mind his own business, even though he's really concerned because you haven't done anything. I don't know if that comes off as harsh, but like, seriously, you've done nothing to improve your life. So yeah, in my opinion, you're absolutely the jerk here. Your in-laws have been super patient and you've done nothing to improve your life or better your situation. And I don't think that's fair for your in-laws in the slightest. An entitled Karen's purse gets stolen at our store. And after trying to blame us for stealing it or not doing enough to prevent it, this entitled Karen threatens to sue us at the store for not doing our job. Here's what happened. So this happened back when I was an assistant retail supervisor at a thrift store, and let me tell you something, this was very bizarre. Every morning we'd have a whole mob of people waiting outside the door to get in because they wanted to be the first to get their hands on whatever new thing that was put out. One woman in particular came in about 5 days a week, generally 2 to 3 times a day, coinciding for when the production crew rolled out their carts with new items. She, along with many others, was a reseller. She was an issue just about every single day and was very close to becoming banned, but always just managed to tiptoe over the line because, as it turns out, there was a worker there that would warn her anytime she was about to get in trouble. She also didn't like me because she liked to rip or cut the tags off of items and would lie about the prices for similar items, and I would be the person that would not let her get away with that. So one day she comes in, gets her purchases, and leaves. She takes her cart out and leaves it outside in the parking lot, as you do, and later comes back to find that the purse she's left in the cart outside the store is now gone. Now, first, she accuses us of stealing it, but we've got nice cameras, and the police are called, and the evidence is handed over, with her purse eventually being found and returned. Now, you would think that that would be the end of it, but no, of course it's not. For the next several weeks, she continues to come in as normal, but this time she is telling every customer within earshot that we allowed her purse to get stolen, that we didn't do our due diligence, and that she was getting a lawyer and was intending to sue us. Unfortunately, management said if we banned her now, it would look like retaliation. Then the regional director got involved, said something about her threatening a lawsuit meant something something or another, and if she continued speaking to other customers about it, we could finally ban her from the store. Well, of course, her little friend got into her ear and she finally shut up about it, so once again, we were unable to ban her. Now, the best part about this is that she was so mad about us not doing anything to stop it, but we found out when the police found the guy who stole the purse, he had a weapon on him. And trust me, lady, I'm not about to expire for your stupid purse. Yeah, customers who act that way are super annoying, especially when you're working the register and you see them like skating around the system. Like they're very clearly just trying to like catch a deal or something like that by like messing with the tags. Also, they could just try and get like what, maybe $5 off of what they're buying? Like seriously? Is that really gonna break the bank? Like that's just super annoying. And the original posters got it right. Like they only want it cheaper so they can resell it online. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, hey, if you make money doing that, go for it. But purposefully damaging merchandise just so you can get like a better price, that's crazy to me. Not to mention her purse going missing and her being like, oh yeah, I'm gonna sue you, this is your fault. But like, what did she expect the employees to do? You're expecting hourly workers who probably make a little bit above minimum wage to go chasing after your stupid purse? Oh, and by the way, this guy had a weapon on him? Like, there's no way that's happening. And also, who in their right mind would know that she lost her purse without her saying something in the first place? It's just one big cycle of like blaming somebody else for their own stupidity. It's honestly annoying. So maybe at some point you can get this lady banned, or at least find the employee that's like ratting out your plans, because I can imagine dealing with this lady on a daily basis must be miserable. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would be very annoyed very quickly. My entitled biological dad has treated me terribly my entire life. And after a lifetime of dealing with that, I finally put my foot down and told him exactly how I feel. Here's what happened. So my biological dad was never really around when I was a child. He was an alcoholic and spent any free time drinking or passed out from drinking. He was never physically awful, but he did many things that traumatized me for life. Once my mom finally left him, he had no contact with us for years. Luckily, she eventually met an amazing man that became my stepdad and the man that will always be my real dad. And this will be important later on. When I was 15 years old, he tried to come back around, and a few months into this new man act, my mom asked him to take me to the doctor for an extremely painful foot infection. I was prescribed pain medications and sent on my way. Well, he went and got my prescription and kept every last pill for himself. He knew I would tell mom, so it was another 15 years before he came back around again. Now, he really seemed to try this time. We took things slow and actually began forming a real relationship for the first time in my life. On Christmas 4 years ago, we planned for him to come stay with me and my boyfriend. Well, he canceled last minute, but I told him it was okay and we'd see him another time. But that was apparently being too harsh, and he then went no contact with me. I mean, I don't know if I was supposed to beg him to come along or what. Well, 2 months after Christmas, my now husband proposed. It was a quick engagement. We were engaged in February and married in June, and it was an extremely small wedding. I sent my biological dad an invite and didn't even get a response. Either way, I planned on having my stepdad walk me down the aisle. He was the only one that raised me and dealt with the awful stuff I had from my childhood. He was the only one who was always there for me no matter what. Well, when my biological dad found out, he flipped. He disowned me, told me what a horrible daughter I've always been, and according to him, I've done things that are just as bad as what he's done, which by the way is just a flat out lie and proves how delusional he really is. It's like a slap in the face for him to not be able to walk me down the aisle. He rewrote my entire childhood like he was some sort of saint and deserved to have these father-daughter moments. But I let out all of the anger I had for him right at that moment, and I told him exactly how I felt all these years. And after that, we haven't spoken since. My wedding day, though, was the most special day of my life for more than one reason. My stepdad walked me down the aisle and was beaming with pride. He was so thrilled that I asked him. But 5 weeks after the wedding, I get a phone call that shook my entire world. My stepdad was admitted to the ICU, and it wasn't looking good. And then he passed away 1 week later. My wedding was our family's last time getting together, and I'm so thankful that I have those memories to cherish and that I didn't allow my biological dad to ruin one of the last moments I got with my real dad. Wow, that's a really sad ending, but honestly, you did the right thing. Like, first of all, your biological dad doesn't sound like a good person at all. He was stealing pain medication from you behind your back, and he did awful things to you when you were a child. Like, this guy is clearly a massive piece of garbage, and I'm kind of glad that you had a stepdad to step in and literally be there for you, because your biological dad failed you completely. And even when you were you're older, he tried to like rewrite the entire history of your childhood and act like, oh no, you're just as bad as I am. But it's like, dude, you're completely delusional. That is not the case at all. So I'm really sorry that you lost your stepdad, but seriously, I'm so glad you got to have that moment at your wedding, because it would have been a shame to have your biological dad steal that moment, especially when you didn't know that your stepdad was so close to passing away. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out Easy Mode. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.